you work on yourself before you work on others so that you're a clear conduit. The medbed sessions are just like that. And I've even started to see them pop into Reiki sessions now that I've met them and know who they are and can recognize them more. They show up beyond the medbed sessions.
So, hi, Megan. Thanks for finding the time to jump on and have a quick chat to me because I was trying to think about this before we got online. How long do you reckon it's been since we first sort of met with that very first session?
It's been over a year. I want to say like 15 or 16 months.
Yeah, I figured it was more than a year, but I didn't think it was 2 years, but something like that. So I remember, so it's like since jumping on board, and then of course your mum had a medbed session as well, and she was really getting into it. And of course, the galactic consciousness is so exciting. I think probably we could start there from a personal level. How have you noticed that in terms of your spiritual growth, your understanding of yourself? How have you found that just at a personal level first?
It feels like I'm cheating in life, to be honest. I just
What do you
feel
mean by that?
so um well, I feel like my intuition is heightened and things are easier. I can get into flow much easier. I can manifest much easier. Um and really like deep questions that I have or challenges that I have, I know I'm fully supported and can tap into this galactic family, and it's just so much easier than the way I would have done it in the past. So that's why it feels like I'm cheating sometimes, because it can make life so much easier.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I like that too because a lot of people sometimes have the challenge of how do they mix 3D life with this expanded outlook on life and still and there's nothing wrong with this working in your normal, let's call it 3D job, but bringing in all of these powerful universal principles. Is this kind of what you mean by you feel like you're cheating a bit in life because in other words you're learning to work with that in the matrix, let's call it?
Yeah, I think so. And I can sustain it longer than I like in the past. I would maybe like dip into 5D really quickly and come back down.
Yeah.
But I find now I can sustain it a lot longer. I can recognize when I'm dropping into 3D, and I have a different perspective on the things that are happening in that experience as well, just because of all of the just trauma and yuck that I've cleared. I just have so much more clarity around triggers and why people behave the way they do, why I behave the way I do. That has made it so much easier to jump right back into 5D and look at things from a higher perspective.
Yeah. And I think it's great for people to know that they can, let's call it, blur these worlds. It doesn't need to be just one or the other. Learning to work with them both. Because let's face it, we're all down here on the planet. We've got to deal with 3D triggers coming at us from day to day. But I think for people watching this is the good first step to know that you're still somewhat normal, and so you're thriving in your career. But then, of course, as well, you do well. Initially, you can describe what you were doing, but initially, was it just sort of Reiki sessions and energy work, and now you've expanded? Perhaps you could expand on that a bit for us.
Yeah. So primarily I was doing Reiki, mostly distance Reiki. I was certifying people in Reiki, and I was doing coaching prior to the med beds.
Yeah.
And at first, just wanted to learn about the med beds and have that experience for my own self so I could be just thriving as an individual better. But also enhanced my abilities as a practitioner, as a Reiki master. I noticed my intuition was heightened and I was tapping into things that I wouldn't have tapped into before. So it kind of started there and it's evolved into so much more, which I'm happy to share about today. But that's where it started.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good because the person who'd be watching us have this chat today is probably already working with clients either full-time or part-time, and looking at adding a modality to what they're doing as an existing, let's call it business or interest, etc. And what I love about this energetic galactic work is that it's so complementary. It doesn't really matter what people are doing in some sort of other area. It just adds that extra element. Perhaps you could expand on what that kind of looks like for your clients now, the results, are they excited, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have a couple different ways it comes in. I tend to let my intuition guide me with my clients and what they need. But I would say the primary things are either people come to me initially for Reiki. And it's a good way to like get them going, start clearing some of those densities, understand what's happening, help them achieve their goals faster, just help them maintain balance overall. But a lot of them get to a point where they're ready for something more advanced. They're ready for deeper healing. They're ready to go back and do work in past lives, or heal generational trauma and stuff that I traditionally wouldn't use Reiki for. Not that you can't, but I wouldn't have used it for that. And so I find people kind of use Reiki as a way to like build trust, learn to work together, and start to clear some of the blockages. And then they step into the Medbed sessions with me, and they're so profound. It's like one Medbed session is like 3 Reiki sessions. So we've already established this beautiful foundation, and they've already done so much of the work. And now we step into the Medbed session and they experience deeper healing. The things that have come up in the Reiki sessions, we start to understand why those things came up and where they were coming from when we go to the ship and do the Medbed sessions. So I feel like that's one way that people have leveraged both. But some of my clients like to just alternate back and forth. I have a client that I worked with for 6 months, and they did 2 sessions every month, and they alternated between Reiki and Medbed. So they do a Reiki session, and then they do a Medbed session. They go back to Reiki, and we'd integrate a lot of the stuff that happened in the Medbed, then go back. And that was really beautiful as well. So I think kind of depends on the individual, but they're so complementary. And the changes they've experienced in their lives because of this complementary work are just tremendous in every single area: physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, in their careers, personal lives, relationships, you call it. It's really been profound.
Very much then like yourself, you're thriving in all the different areas of your life, and things are going, like super well. But there's that saying, the best way to help other people is to heal yourself first. The healthier, the more in sync and aligned you are within yourself, the more that radiates out to others when you're helping them as well, right?
Yeah, and that's a huge principle for Reiki too. That's the foundational belief of like, that's why you do Reiki 1 before you do Reiki 2. You work on yourself before you work on others, so that you're a clear conduit. Even though I'm not providing the healing itself, I'm still the vessel for that information and healing to flow through. And so the Medbed sessions are just like that, where the more work you do, the better you can understand what's happening, the deeper the connection with your galactic guides and who's coming in and when and why. And I've even started to see them pop into Reiki sessions now that I've met them and know who they are and can recognize them more. They show up beyond the Medbed sessions.
Yeah, this is important. I think a lot of people will be interested in this bit. So who do you like working with? Well, which of the beings do you find the energy aligns most with you? I know it's going to be different for everyone, but I'm sure people would be interested to hear the answer to this.
Oh gosh, they're all so different. I have a very special place in my heart for Arcturians, which there's a lot of connection between Reiki and the Arcturians as well. A lot of people believe that is actually where Reiki comes from, traditional Reiki. And so since learning that, I've met a Reiki guide who's actually an Arcturian, and he steps in and helps in my sessions. I see the Syrians a lot. I see Andromedans pop in. I actually a lot of archangels in my sessions, depending on what we're working on. I almost in every single session that one of the archangels is there. The Lyrans will pop in as well. They're all so special and unique. But the Arcturians, I think if you're making me choose a favorite, I
Oh,
think that's
no,
the
I
one I feel
wouldn't.
a deeper connection with.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit like that, it's not so much you have a favorite like your children or something, it's they're all got their own little individual role to play. We're all very, special. It's just a lovely relationship to have established. And once you have it, they're with you. Hey, it's like constantly with you. So the fact that I know before we got on camera, just talking about how many things are just lining up for you in your life, and your family life and, with your personal success and different little projects and goals that you've been able to achieve, and some amazing like law of attraction and manifestation just gets supercharged. As you were saying, the cleaner the vessel, the more you work with the energy, and there's just so much less resistance. So I think this is going to be just so beneficial for people to just quickly hear a little bit of this information that we've chatted about today. So thanks for jumping online. Is there anything else you think you would say to someone who might be thinking about doing the How to Medbed course and wondering how they could apply it either to themselves or merging it in with what they're doing already?
What comes in is if they're thinking about it, just do it because it came in for a reason.
Yeah.
Because to be totally honest, I didn't necessarily have a clear vision of how I was going to incorporate this in my career, or if I even was going to. I mean, I wanted to just learn for myself so I could go up there, and I find myself putting myself to sleep up there sometimes for healing. And so I think just being there and learning it and going through the experience, the rest will unfold and you'll get clarity on how to leverage this in your own life, whether you want to use it professionally or personally. It just kind of, it falls into place. I didn't even have the clear vision. But every client that I work with, I'm just very present and focused on what they need and following my intuition. And the path always unfolds and we always end up in the ship.
Yeah.
So I would say just do it if
And
you're
are
thinking
you
about it.
surprised at how many people are open to this whole idea? Like when you mentioned like Medbed, I could take you to the ship. I mean, is it easier to say that than you thought it would be?
Yes, it's so wild to me how many people like lean in, like, that sounds amazing. Like, I at first I was like, oh, so I go to the ship, hang out with some ETs, like wasn't sure how to communicate it. But I do find my Reiki clients and even people outside of my Reiki clients, they find out about it and they find out about the immense healing that takes place. And everybody wants that right now. Everybody wants to elevate and ascend and let go of what's not
Yeah.
serving them. And I'm so in these paths of doing it.
Wow. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having a chat to me today. And I'm sure you'll help to inspire other people to like have this ripple effect. And I mean, that's the goal of this, is to have lots of people around the world doing medbed sessions. And, as we talk about, we're the galactic ambassadors. We're part of that percentage that is saying we want to connect to these high levels of consciousness. It's time for humanity to join the Galactic Federation, to become an active member and to step into more of our potential. So I want to say a big thank you for helping to play a part in that too.
Oh, it's an honor. I'm so grateful that we crossed paths and that this is my life now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Wow, that's so good. I don't know where the stop record is, but Roxy can cut
It's
it.
usually there's like a record down the bottom.
Yeah, she's got all these tabs open. I don't want to hit end, but where's anyway?
It's fine. We can keep
Doesn't
recording.
matter. Doesn't matter.
Um,
Oh, here it is up here. Record. I can just.
I also forgot, but we had already changed thoughts. But I was like, oh man, the Pleiadians. I didn't even mention them, but I love them for the comic relief.
Yeah.
Like they're
And
just funny.
like sometimes in the medbed sessions, they are joking around, and I've got a serious client. I had this
Yeah.
German lady the other day, and they were going, "Why so serious with this funny accent?" And I was kind of laughing, like not telling her exactly what's going on. But I'm going, like, they're saying you need to laugh a bit more, Sonia. You need to loosen up, because you're too serious. She's like, yeah, you're probably right. So you're right. The comedy relief's good, but their points are um, telling people to give themselves a break and enjoy their life more. And they're always telling me to encourage them to be silly. They want. They want you to sing in the car. They want you to be
Mm-hmm.
more childlike. Bring your inner child back out.
Yep.
That's a lot of the Pleiadian style. And then I really like something you said in that interview, and I'd never really thought of it like that. But the way the Arcturians move, when they're moving energy, I was thinking, you're right. That is like Reiki, when the person moves the energy, they very much move the energy like that, don't they? It's those
Mm-hmm.
sweeping Qigong type movements over the
Yeah,
person.
but it's like advanced Reiki, because in Reiki, it's so important that you don't absorb the energy of the other person. But the Arcturians, I've found, will sometimes absorb the energy for them and transmute it and then fill them back up. So,
Yeah.
but it is fascinating to see them just like absorb it, transmute it, and then give them the.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that part. That is a good point. Um, because sometimes things can be stuck, right? And the person doesn't know how to let go of it. So that's that extra assistance. So in other words, their free will's going, I'd love to get over this. I'd like to let go, but something's stuck in there, and they're able to, like, it's almost the extra push or the extra pull, whatever that may be, to just release. And
Yep.
isn't it nice too when you get on a call with someone and you notice how much they've changed from one session to the next?
Yeah.
Do you notice that? You get on and
Yeah.
their energy's good and they're bright in the eyes, and you're like,
Or
wow, look at you. How you been going? And they're like full of spark.
I've had a client say, like, random people have been coming up to her like, wow, you are just like radiating joy and light, and like, what are you doing? It's the one that does every other session, Reiki and then Medbed.
Oh, yes.
Something else I didn't talk about, but one of my clients she did like 6 Reiki sessions first and then 3 Medbed sessions. And in Reiki, every single session, there was a very clear, like, you need to get out in nature. Like, your Earth Star chakra is struggling. Like, she had so many body issues. She had cancer, she had endometriosis, she had injuries in her knee. Like, her body was like so ill. She even like a heart murmur thing, like a what do you call oh, I forget, but it's like this
Arrhythmia
thing that
type
keeps
thing.
it going. But anyway,
Yeah.
like, hey, what is it called? I don't know, but something like installed in her, actually. Like, she's just had a slew of stuff. And in Reiki, we were working through it. And then we went up to the ship and discovered that her whole energy system was vibrating and rotating in like the wrong direction, like completely opposite of what she needs to be doing and the direction that she should be flowing. And her Earth Star chakra was like all messed up. And so they started like spinning it the other way. And she got really dizzy at first, but she felt like I need to stay in it. And I did too. And they were like, she'll be fine, just keep going. But they were like explaining to us why we've been feeling like you really need physical manifestations and illness. Um, and Reiki to know, like, you need to go outside and we need to balance this. And then we went to the med bed and it was like, oh, this is why.
Yeah, it's so good, hey, to be able to help people, and it's a multifaceted approach, isn't it? It's, when we use the word multidimensional, but it is. There's different levels that you can help a person on for sure. Yeah, I always like it, seeing someone who's, having more than one session and they're coming back and things are happening for them, and very much like we've been sharing with one another over, let's say, the last year and a bit, of how our journey's changed for both of us.
Yeah.
And it's like not logical. Like Roxy and I couldn't have worked out to get where we are now through just using logic alone. There's been like divine guidance, things dropping in, getting aligned, right place, right time. Things just away they go,
Yeah. I told Roxy, so this client of mine that does the every other session, she came to me and said she got laid off, but it was a huge blessing. Like, that company was so bad for her. And she's in the process of looking for a new job, and she's like in London, but she's from the US. There's like all these complications. And then she hurt her foot, and she went to a couple doctors, and some said she needed surgery and some were unsure. And she was having a hard time like figuring out, do I go through with the foot surgery or not? And I'm like, I don't want to give you the answer. So let's uncover this. So she's like, let's go up to the ship. We go up to the ship thinking we're going to get into med bed. And as soon as we're up there, they like the boardroom, Angela. And there's all these beings with this like divine feminine being in the middle, and they're like serious, but they're still loving. And I was like, they want you to present your questions to them. And so she had like 3 questions, and she asked them like very crystal clear. And the first one was, will having foot surgery serve my highest and greatest good? And we both got an immediate no, like immediate. And it was so clear. And she was like, okay, like I feel at peace with that answer. Like, it was so clear. But even just bringing people up there where you would normally do a coaching call, to just facilitate and hold the space and do your coaching call in the boardroom is so powerful.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It'll inspire lots of people, to be able to make a change. So we're really excited about that. So thank you very much for jumping on. I really appreciate it, and it's good to have a chat too while we're here and in your time zone. And